everyone. Welcome to what we like to call the day after. This is the day after New Orleans, where we read your thoughts. I react to those thoughts, and this is our video. So basically what I'm doing is, if you're new here, these are the comments from yesterday's video post-game, and we go over them sort of together, and I respond to your reactions to that video, to the game, to the Vikings season as a whole, to where we're going, where we've been, and everything in between. Before we get started, today is Saturday, and the Lions suffered a pretty terrible defeat at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's interesting to point that out because they had no defense today. 40 points in the first half. Tom Brady gets benched for the second half in favor of Blaine Gabbert because, let's face it, they didn't need him anymore. He did the damage. The Bucs locked up a playoff spot, and Detroit is licking its wounds heading into next week versus the Vikings in one of the more meaningless games that I can remember. So it'll be interesting to see how that game is handled. Honestly, guys, and we'll talk about this more coming up in the week leading up to the game. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm benching Dalvin Cook. I'm not playing him at all. It'll be Mike Boone and Alexander Mattison because Cook is. He's the focal point of the offense. We don't need to risk injury. I get Justin Jefferson his 48 yards that he needs, 48 yards to break the rookie receiving record, and then I bench him because I don't want him getting hurt. And then I don't play Kirk Cousins. I play Sean Mannion to prove that to make him prove that he deserves to be the backup, which I don't believe that he does. So that's how I would handle it going into next week. So we'll see what happens. Let's get into the review for New Orleans and all of your thoughts. My reactions are video. Cute, right? First comment yesterday comes from Rasby Red. They say, this was an embarrassing loss on Christmas Day when you're the only game on for the world to see. Yes, that's the whole point. I think that's the biggest reason that Vikings fans like me and myself are frustrated, is because anytime we're on prime time, world stage, we don't show up. And like I've always said, I'm okay with losing games. The Saints have lost games this year. The Green Bay Packers have lost games this year. Steelers have lost games. The Bills have lost games. The Chiefs have lost one, but they've still lost. It's going to happen. It's better to get it out of your system a few times here and there during the regular season instead of losing in January. Losing is fine. It's going to happen. Going 16-0 is really hard. 15-1 is hard. 14-2 is difficult. 13-3 is difficult. You're going to lose games. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with losing in the manner that we just did on Sunday. That has to have some repercussions. There has to be accountability for those. And it feels like, not always, but it feels like more often than not, the Vikings dish out those games for us as fans, right? It's just heartbreak, frustration, losing in dramatic fashion, letting another team into the record books, whatever it may be. There's always some spectacle involved when us losing, right? So it's just, I wish we could lose normally, if that is something, if that's a thing. Next, Noah Koski says, let's be honest, when we went 1-5, our season was over. Yeah, it was. If you've been subbed to this channel for a while, or if you're just catching me, right now, go back and watch the videos that I put out the week after the Falcons game when I said, basically, burn it all down. This team is garbage. And to the point where a lot of people are saying in defense of Mike Zimmer this week, he doesn't have Eric Kendricks, he doesn't have Mike Hughes, he doesn't have Anthony Barr, he doesn't have Daniil Hunter. Whoop-de-doo. You had most of those guys in the beginning of the season, and you still lost a whole bunch of games. It makes no difference who you put out there on defense. This team structurally is bad. Scheme-wise, it's bad. Philosophically, on offense and defense, it's bad. I mean, you're playing base cover 2 to protect rookie cornerbacks because you had a massive exodus of veterans from this defense at the offseason last year, where 9 veterans walk away, including 3 starting cornerbacks and Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander, and Xavier Rhodes. The excuses have to stop. Injuries happen to every single team, and when this defense was healthy and we had Yannick Ngakoue, we didn't win games. So it's just, yeah, the season was over at the Falcons game, and we sort of just spoiled our draft picks by winning meaningless games against really bad teams. The only marquee win we have is against Green Bay at Lambeau Field, and that's with a big assist from Mother Nature because there was so much wind. It tamed Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, feels terrible. Next one comes from Nano Joe, and I love this one for 2 reasons. So it's a lot. I'll put a little bit of it on the screen, and I'll read the whole thing. Arizona fired their coach after 1 year and drafted Kyler Murray after taking Josh Rosen the previous year. That's point number 1. This team has way too much talent at skill positions, and it's a tragedy that it may be pissed away by Grandpa Zimmer and Pizza Ranch Boy at quarterback. I laughed so hard when I read Pizza Ranch Boy at quarterback. Like that's a great. If you're going to insult somebody, make it that creative because it's hilarious. So anyway, back to this comment. The first point about Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals, and drafting a quarterback using a top 10 pick in back-to-back years. Preach, brother, preach, because that is the idea of, blocking out the sunk cost fallacy that everybody likes to, use to justify not going after a quarterback every year or a position player every year. It doesn't matter. It's you should be drafting a quarterback every single draft until you hit. And it should be, it doesn't have to be a first round pick every single time. Bill Belichick spent 8 draft picks over the span of almost 20 years on quarterbacks while he had Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Matt Castle. There's a bunch that didn't work out, of course, but at the same time, he ends up finding three more guys that end up getting starting jobs. So draft a quarterback every single year. Sunk cost fallacy is dumb. And you're never going to get one if you don't try. And then the next point about this being a tragedy, wasting the skill position players that we currently have on this offense. Yeah, I agree. Irv Smith Jr. is really coming into his own this year. Justin Jefferson, potential rookie of the year. Adam Thielen, really good wide receiver, one of the best in the NFL. Conklin looks like he's a very, I don't want to say, worthy starting tight end, but he's somebody that's able to hold his own. Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league. Alexander Mattison, jury's out on him, but I still think he's a capable backup. We'll see. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about the clock ticking on Justin Jefferson. We've already wasted 1 year of him with nothing to show for other than maybe an individual award. Next comes from user Always Great USA. You could have put Fat Albert out there running the ball, and he would have scored 6 touchdowns. That's both funny and accurate, because if you look at Alvin Kamara's stats from previous games, this game that he had against us was not normal for him. He doesn't get 20 touches in a game, or 20 carries in a game. He might get 20 touches, between runs and passes, but he doesn't get 20 carries for 150 yards and 6 touchdowns. We could have faced, think of the worst running back that you've ever thought of, and Trent Richardson would have scored probably twice on us if he was the starting Saints running back in that game, and that's pathetic. So it didn't matter who was playing against us. The offensive game plan of run first, run some more, and then when everybody's really tired, run it more. That game plan was the best thing to do, especially with a struggling veteran quarterback in Drew Brees, whose arm looks like it is absolutely cooked. I thought that they were going to go after these young rookie corners, but the fact that they were missing so much depth at wide receiver, it only made sense to put the workload on Alvin Kamara, and they absolutely capitalized on this terrible interior defensive line and us having no linebackers. So it doesn't matter who would have gone out there. The fact that Alvin Kamara did as well as he did speaks to how good of a player he is. Next, we have Craig Evan, who says, this was a positive in my opinion. A loss equals higher draft picks, plus showed we desperately need help in the trenches. Yes and no. I don't think we really needed to showcase that we desperately need help in the trenches. I think that's been a running staple, especially on the offensive line, for about 5 to 6 years now. The defensive line has been god-awful since Yannick Ngakoue was traded away from this team to Baltimore. We have generated, I think, a team worst amount of pressures this season at 23 or 24%. And which is good enough for, I think, dead last in the league. But from a team standpoint, Danielle Hunter had 14 sacks last season. And with 1 game to go, this team as a whole only has 11.5. So it's a very shit defensive line. And the fact that these are Mike Zimmer's guys, like, you listen to him in his post-game press conference against the Saints, where he's like, we need to get our guys back. We need to get our guys like Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, who are really good. We need to get them back. These guys are your guys too. You drafted Jaleel Johnson. You signed Shamar Stevens. I don't know what you see in them, but you did it, and you're starting them because now you have nothing else, and these are your guys, and they suck. So the onus is on you, my man. Next, who do we have next? We have Treyrious, excellent username. They say fire Spielman and Zim next Monday. Twice this mediocre franchise messed up their draft picks with a Ngakwe trade debacle, claiming we were a Super Bowl team while squandering their draft position in 2021. Yes, that absolutely is accurate. Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer basically lied to themselves, or they were in over their own heads thinking that this was going to be a competitive team just because of Mike Zimmer's defensive pedigree. I'm sorry, but you can't always, turn water into wine or, crap into gold. It's just not going to happen every single time. The draft is a crapshoot, and they got some good players this year. Very excited for Cam Dantzler and Jeff Gladney. Jeff Gladney had a little bit of a bad game this past week, but I still think there's potential there for him. But we don't have a second round pick this year, and that sucks, especially in a draft like this where there is some good depth. We could have had a high second round draft pick. I don't know where we are currently with games going on this weekend. We won't find out realistically until Monday. But Jeff Wilson breaks off a huge run, and he's on my bench in fantasy football. That really stings. The hits keep on coming. I'm playing against the guy that has Alvin Kamara in our fantasy league. How about that? So yeah, we don't have a second round pick, and that is a really big disaster for somebody that we made a trade for that we rented for 6 weeks. Like we wasted a 6th round pick on a 6-week rental. That's terrible. Next, one of our regulars, Samson, says it's time to move on and trade the expensive veterans to start the rebuild. And this is probably going to be one of the hot topics of discussion coming up in the next few weeks. The Lions game be damned, because we have a number of aging veterans who, let's face it, their time is probably up. Number one, who is going to absolutely be gone after yesterday's performance, is Anthony Harris. I feel bad for whatever team signs him to a ridiculous contract next year. Kyle Rudolph, your welcome has been overstayed, because Conklin has decided to turn on the Jets this year and prove that he is a capable tight end. So Irv Smith and Conklin will be tight ends 1 and 2 as we open up next season. So Kyle Rudolph is gone. Riley Reif is probably not going to take another pay cut to stay here. He has played well above his pay grade this year, and he will get a big contract somewhere else, because it's very hard to find capable starting left tackles in this league, and he is one of them, and we will not be able to afford him next year. Who else? Harrison Smith is getting up there in age. His contract is going to need to be restructured. He hasn't had a great year. The refs are picking on him, so that's probably affecting his gameplay. Who else? Eric Wilson, I think they should bring back. Anthony Barr's contract sucks. I wish we could dump it. Kendricks is probably going to be expensive. I don't really know his contract status currently, and that's probably it. But yeah, there's a lot of free veteran free agents that we're going to have another mass exodus this year. You can guarantee that. And it's just the fact that the cap is going to fall by about $20 million, and we're just in salary cap hell because Captain Kirk Cousins takes up 15% of the salary cap. Last comment comes from Minnie Meister. If Mike Zimmer is a defensive guru, why did we allow 52 points? And that is the question of the day as we wrap up this video. And I have spent the past 24 to 36 hours interacting with Vikings fans on social media who absolutely pound the table for Mike Zimmer. They pound the table for Kirk Cousins. They have every excuse in the book to blame this on something else, other than the fact that Mike Zimmer has allowed this to happen. Listen, you can be a fan of any team you want, but you have to realistically set standards of accountability. Mike Zimmer is the head coach. Rick Spielman is the GM. The Wilf family own the team. That's the top of the totem pole. Now, there's not much we can do about the Wilf family. The Wilf family are here to stay, unless they sell, which I don't foresee that happening. Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer are on the hot seat as of yesterday, because Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman put this team together. There is nobody that would argue that Mike Zimmer is allowing the draft picks to be made on defense, and then Rick Spielman gets his guys for offense. These are Mike Zimmer's guys. Let's face it, other than the linebacking position, this defense is his. We've already talked about Shamar Stephen and Jaleel Johnson being his guys. They signed one of them, they drafted the other. DJ Wanham's a 5th round pick. Eric Wilson's his guy. The other 2 linebackers, I understand were decimated by injuries, but every team suffers through that, so it's not an excuse. Even he said it in his post-game press conference. You put on an NFL jersey, we expect you to play well. And they didn't. They were horrible. Anthony Harris, his guy. Anthony Barr was a guy that he pounded the table for. Bring him back. Now he's on a huge contract that we're absolutely stuck with. This is his defense. the accountability has to go somewhere. I know that people, Vikings fans, don't want to blame Mike Zimmer because they're too afraid of going back to the Leslie Frazier and Brad Childress eras. But listen, we're not going to go back to those eras. We're going to go forward. And if going forward means that you spend a couple of years in the basement, by all means, you have to do it. Every franchise goes through this, other than maybe the Patriots and Green Bay, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Patriots, and the Green Bay, I think, would be the only franchises that are immune to change. Because if you want to change in this league, you're going to spend 3 or 4 years building an offensive line. We can't get Kirk Cousins the perfect offensive line in one offseason. It's not possible. We're talking about things that just cannot be changed in the blink of an eye. So the accountability has to go on the people that are running the team, facilitating the defense, facilitating the offense. Gary Kubiak, the nepotism on this team is atrocious because you can't fire anybody because they're all buddies and they're all family, because you've got Clint Kubiak as the quarterback coach, you've got Adam Zimmer as a co-defensive coordinator, you've got his buddy as the other co-defensive coordinator. You're not going to be able to get rid of Gary Kubiak without some sort of uprising from the rest of the coaching staff. It's a mess, and it has to just be flushed. So that's going to do it for the day after New Orleans. Thank you guys for your comments. Let me know what you think about my reactions in the comments below, and anything else that you want to discuss when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings or the upcoming NFL draft. So thank you for watching. Have a good one.